Hello from Deepdale, where Liverpool have just rounded off their pre-season campaign for 2023 with a 3-1 win over Darmstadt. German opposition coming here and coming in good numbers, actually. Really loud support over in the corner of Deepdale, really put on a good show. But Liverpool, too sharp, too good for a side who've just been promoted to the Bundesliga. As I said, a 3-1 win. And actually quite a lot to talk about from this game as well. Now I know, you could say that pre-season friendlies a lot of the time are glorified friendlies, and I think that's exactly how the manager would see it up to this point of pre-season. It's just an opportunity to get minutes in the legs and get the players fit enough so that they're ready for the start of the new season. But this final friendly, I think you see a little bit more of the Liverpool side that you're going to see going into the season proper. Jurgen Klopp wants his side to be sharp and ready for that Premier League start. Obviously it's a tough one away to Chelsea first up for Liverpool, so he wanted to see signs today that this side was really looking up to scratch and that his side is ready for the start of the new season. So quite a lot to talk about in there, really, in terms of, I think the starting 11 for starters maybe gave us a lot of clues about the way that Jurgen Klopp is going to line his team up at Chelsea. Now I think there was I think basically he'll go with the same starting 11 at Chelsea. I would be surprised if not. And there were a couple of really big decisions in there. I think the first one that really jumps out is Diogo Jota starting up front. Now Jurgen Klopp's always talked about how good a presser he is, and we know how deadly he is in front of goal. But he also had Darwin Núñez, who really impressed in pre-season, and that could have been an option for him there. But I think Diogo Jota getting the nod up front for this game really suggests that he's going to be the man who starts up front against Chelsea. Also, big decision in midfield as well that he had to make in terms of Cody Gakpo. Now he was obviously a real contender to start this game up front. He'd been again impressive in pre-season. I thought hugely impressive towards the back end of last season as well, in that starting as a centre forward. He sort of looked like a Firmino type in that role, didn't he? Really able to shield the ball well and take it in deep positions and then get Liverpool on the front foot. But he started in midfield here, so maybe that is something that we're going to see going forward from him. We know that Jurgen Klopp likes him in that role in midfield, but it looks like something he's going to stick with going forward, and maybe we could see him line up at Chelsea in that way. It certainly looks that that's going to be the case with him starting this final pre-season friendly here. Now obviously with Gakpo being in midfield, there was a couple of reasons for that. Now one was that Curtis Jones had sort of felt something in the warm-up, we're told. Now he is obviously, in the last two friendlies prior to this, took on that number 6 role. Not a natural role for him. He's obviously more of a left-sided number 8, but he's took it on for the team. But obviously with feeling something, he's had to drop out of the starting 11 here, only able to appear as a substitute, and that meant that Jurgen Klopp had to reshuffle his midfield again. Gakpo coming in, as I mentioned, but also then Alexis Mac Allister in a holding role. Now a bit less unfamiliar for him. He has played there previously for Brighton and done quite well. He's more possession based than aggressive in that position as a Fabinho type, but I thought really impressive. He looked really smart. He used the ball really well in deep positions, still picked his times to get forward and get into that number 10 area, which is where he does some of his best work, I would say. But he also looked really tenacious in the tackle. He looked smart in covering gaps. He looked like he knew where he was supposed to stand at all times and where he was supposed to be, and some really nice defensive work to go alongside the fact that he's so neat and tidy on the ball and so clever with that. So really impressive performance from him there. And you think, if there is any doubt in terms of the fitness of Curtis Jones, and regardless of whether there isn't, in fact, even if Curtis is going to be back for that game against Chelsea, I think Alexis Mac Allister might have given Jurgen Klopp a little bit of something to think about there, because he has options in those number 8 positions where he would like to maybe start Mac Allister more regularly. But that number 6 position is a real problem for Liverpool, and I do think Curtis Jones looked a little bit exposed there in that friendly against Bayern Munich. So maybe Alexis Mac Allister has done enough, or I would certainly say so, to maybe get himself a start in that number 6 position against Chelsea. So let's see how that one pans out. Now, a couple of other things to talk about in terms of the way that Liverpool played and the way that this game went for them. I thought we saw again, unfortunately, that high line can be a little bit exposed at times. Now Darmstadt scored their goal from basically a simple ball over the top. It was farmed out to the Darmstadt right hand side, and a first time ball in behind, and then they were one-on-one with Alisson, and although he bails Liverpool out of trouble a lot of times in those situations, he wasn't able to here. So that's a little bit of a concern going into the new season. One thing I would say about that is I think a lot will be spoken about in terms of defensive reinforcements, and that is something that Liverpool, we know, are looking for going into this new season. But the high line issue is something that's been a bit of a long-standing thing for Liverpool in terms of not just an ability to get pressure on the ball in the right moments, and being able to protect that high line has been a bit of a problem for them in early season under Jurgen Klopp, I'd say. I think it's been, there's been discourse around the high line that Liverpool play around August and September of seemingly every season of the last sort of 3 or 4 seasons. So I think that's going to be a feature again. I think we're still going to see, even if Liverpool get a defender over the line before the start of the season, we're going to see some ropiness in that back line, and maybe just something we have to get a little bit used to. Another thing defensively that I think is worthy of a mention is Andy Robertson's position. Now, he's obviously operating in almost a left-sided centre-half in a back three at times, and you could see in this game as well, and I think it's been a feature of pre-season that he maybe struggles to curb his attacking instincts all the time. Sometimes he'll get up to join the attack and then realise that he should be tighter to Virgil van Dijk, and that can leave Liverpool a little bit exposed down that side at times. And a lot of talk about the fact that Trent goes into midfield on the right hand side, but not maybe enough talk about the fact that Robertson is not always defensively disciplined in terms of his role on that left hand side, and that can leave Liverpool exposed at times. So another one to really keep an eye on. We do know they want that centre half, and it's probably going to be a left sider, so whether Robertson keeps that role up and can start the season well, we'll have to see. It's going to be an interesting one, and a difficult role for him to fulfil. He'll just hope that he can get through these first few games and really impress there, and hopefully keep hold of his shirt if Liverpool do make a signing. Now, of course, I've gone through quite a few negatives there in terms of the performance, but there are quite a few positives to go through and talk about in terms of how Liverpool played today. I thought one of the big pluses and one of the things you really do want to see when you're this close to the start of the season is the pressing looked really, really sharp. Liverpool dispossessed Darmstadt so many times in high positions, and one of the goals in fact came from Salah winning the ball really high up the pitch and then teeing up Jota for an easy one-on-one finish. Now, that is the sort of stuff that Jurgen Klopp really does want to see at this point in the season. He wants to see these players looking sharp, looking fit, looking like they can get there and put pressure on the opposition, because that's what it's all about in terms of his style of football, isn't it? It also, in terms of protecting that high line that we mentioned, it's vital for things like that. I think you need the press at the front to be really aggressive and good, so it makes it very difficult to get a clean lobbed ball in behind or with any accuracy on it. Makes it really difficult for the opposition. So I thought really encouraging signs in terms of the pressing here. Obviously the goals, to score 3 goals again. Liverpool have all the way through this pre-season, even if they've had issues, they've looked quite deadly in attack, and again, the early part of the season, you're never going to be perfect, you're never going to be defensively perfect in particular, so if you can score goals, then that is absolutely massive. And Liverpool have got so many attacking threats, so even if they don't play particularly well across the start of the season, hopefully they can still pick up points, because they do look so sharp in front of goal, so many options, and as I said, there were some difficult decisions to be made in terms of what the team looked like in attack today. That means that regardless of who Jurgen Klopp picks, he's got real strength and depth on the bench and the ability to change games, so that's going to be key in this early part of the season. We saw that here in terms of the depth of attacking options that they've really got. Another thing I wanted to mention as well, and another thing that's important in a period where you're not playing your best, is that Liverpool scored again from set pieces here. They look so dangerous from set pieces. It's something that Virgil van Dijk spoke about actually in an interview from Singapore about that's something that Liverpool have worked an awful lot on, so that's going to be vital in the early parts of the season, and to be scoring again from set pieces here is extremely encouraging in terms of that Liverpool are going to take that into the new season. So good to see them get more goals through that method again, and hopefully that'll be something that's a bit of a hallmark in the early part of the season, and in fact they can keep it going throughout the season, because when you've got tight games, if you can break the game with a set piece, that really opens things up, and it's been a vital part of Liverpool's armoury in recent years, and something they'll really want to sustain going forward. And yeah, just a final point now, actually, away really from the football on the pitch. It's worth mentioning that just down in the director's box, just over my shoulder there, you'll be able to see Jorg Schmadtke, the Liverpool sporting director, was here watching the match today. Now, there's been some suggestions that he's conducting Liverpool's business from outside the UK, but good to see him here today, because obviously things are really ramping up in terms of the transfer market now, and Liverpool have still got quite a lot to do. I think ideally they would bring in 3 more players from this point onwards, so still a lot of business to be done. So to see the sporting director here, where he can be in close contact with Jurgen Klopp and hopefully get some business over the line before the start of that season, which is coming up very fast, and that is, yeah, it's encouraging to see him here. But still plenty of work to do for Jorg Schmadtke, still plenty of work for Liverpool to do, I'm sure, on the training ground before the season comes around, but an encouraging final pre-season friendly outing, a win, which is all you can ask for, and a decent performance in certain elements. Yes, some things to iron out, but Liverpool will probably be feeling pretty good about themselves as they go into that game against Chelsea and a difficult start to the Premier League season.